Hi, and welcome to Reality Check. I'm your host, Lou Meyer. Our guest this week is Penelope Curtis. Penelope, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Lou.
It's wonderful to have you here. Now, folks, when we recognize Penelope, a lot of the good things that happen in our community are a result of her good intentions and thoughts, and this is no different. This time we're going to be talking about California Heritage Treks. And Penelope, why don't you tell folks what this is about and how did you get this idea?
I had been taking a number of treks. The Land Trust has done treks around the area. I did one last summer or fall with Truckee Chamber of Commerce, the Donner Party hike, and thought that it would be really great to be able to design treks to places here in Nevada County or Placer County or around the state that a lot of people haven't ever been to, that have a great heritage, not only from the standpoint of Gold Rush on, but also from Native American California natives, as well as learning a bit about the geology and the geography in these areas. And there's always somebody who can give a good story, so I am putting them together. Last year we had one in Iowa Hill, and then we had another one up to the lookout tower that's up in the Forest Service over by Blue Lake. And that's so beautiful. There are a lot of different places, and most people who like to take a hike always want to know what's going on, what's happened here, and that's what I do, put it together and provide the stories.
Now, in this particular one, you're going to have Grayson Coney helping to lead this.
Right. He's
a fabulous guy.
Definitely fabulous, and definitely has quite a background not only in the Maidu and most of the native California tribes, but as well has studied geology, geography, has studied history, and knows these different locations, like over above the North Fork of the American River. He grew up in that area, lives there now, and so he knows a lot of the history, having hiked in the area. But he's studied the Maidu history and is able to put together a really good informational story for people who take the trek.
Now, the trek that we're talking about right now is going to, let's just mention right away, Saturday, April 16th from 9 to 3. It's a 4-mile round trip.
Right.
And where will folks be going? I see Stevens Trail and Burnt Flat branch of the trail.
Well, the Stevens Trail is just, its trailhead is just to a little bit to the south of I-80 in Colfax. It's a frontage road, and it goes down to the North Fork of the American River. At one time, Stevens created a wagon route that went to the North Fork, crossed it, and went up to Iowa Hill. This was before they created the Iowa Hill Road, about 70 years later.
Is this during the Gold Rush?
It was during the Gold Rush. And down at the bottom, Andrew Halliday, who designed the Pine Street Bridge, original one, and the cable car, designed a bridge to cross the North Fork. It's no longer there. So that was the main route for taking the gold to and from, and people to and from. But there were other branches, and this one branches off about 1/4 of a mile past the trailhead and goes down to an area called Burnt Flat that Grayson has said was at one time a Maidu village in the fall, when they would go in to hunt the deer, and they'd corral the deer in this area for slaughter, and then having meat in the wintertime.
Yeah, for all the things that Native Americans would need. Now, you also mentioned that at one point this was a Chinese village?
After the Gold Rush, the Maidu were sort of forced out, and the gold miners came in, and right below where I-80 is right now, there were some miners' cabins there, and then the Chinese came in to help with the mining, but then worked on the railroad and were a part of building the big wall at Cape Horn, which is right above this area. And at one time, Grayson said there was quite a little village of several hundred people living in the area.
Yeah.
They had a blacksmith, they had a pharmacy, they had everything.
There was a whole big town up there, but then after the gold was played out, that kind of slowed down and
Right,
they didn't rebuild it. Oh, and you told me there were a lot of fires too, right?
That was in Iowa Hill.
Oh, that's Iowa Hill.
Yeah, Iowa Hill was very similar to all of the gold mining towns, including Grass Valley, Nevada City. It seemed like every other year there was a huge fire that wiped them out. I think there were 5 fires, and finally they just gave up.
So that's it.
Yeah, they did.
We're getting the message now.
But just below the burnt flat, there was a huge mine there that will go and look at what is remaining, and you would be very surprised with the overgrowth that there was ever a mine with as many stamps almost as the ones up at the Empire right now.
It's like 150 years ago now.
160.
160 mining. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. A lot of our surrounding area. There, if you look hard enough, you can find mine shafts and entrances at least.
Right.
So, talk a little bit about the reason you chose this area because it's got a rich history. But some of the things we talked about before the show. Let's show some of these things like the soapstone and the obsidian.
Right, we can. Do we want to look at some of the slides first, and then we can...
Sure.
That'll give people an overview of where we are. We've talked about Burnt Flat. This one is Iowa Hill in 1851, and I chose it as a logo because the guys are looking so happy to go off gold mining with their mattresses on their backs.
Yeah, they hadn't invented sleeping bags yet.
No, they just had their old mattresses, and so this is kind of the way to get in the mood for a trek.
What? So let's go for the next slide.
Next slide.
Oh,
This is the flyer.
poster.
Yes, this is the flyer for the trek, and then we can get into.
Tell them. You were before the show. You're saying Grayson's looking off at.
Oh, this is where the Indian village is. Grayson is standing right in the area where the Indian village is. And one of the other slides shows him and Andy looking for artifacts that are all throughout that area.
And that bottom left picture. Oh, we have these on slides. Huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So let's go to the next slide. Here.
Now, this is burnt flat, and it looks like it's burnt out, but the way the soils are from the time of the Maidu, this area had very little vegetation, according to Grayson. It was this way, and then as the miners came in and there was a lot of traffic going through, you can see that it's very desolate.
It looks kind of like High Chaparral.
Right, but there are areas right around it that have a lot of manzanita, conifers, and so on. But this area is where they had this is Grayson.
Defying gravity.
Yes, he is. And he's in the elderberry. As we walk along the trail, Grayson will be pointing out various plants that are used by the Maidu and a lot of the other native California tribes. But the elderberry is one of the important ones for the shafts for quivers and for other types of utensils that they have.
For making arrows. And
arrows, yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Here he is.
And the reason that they like the elderberry is you can see how tall those branches go, and they're very straight. That's over 6 feet, some of those that he's standing in right there. This is one of the creeks that comes down up On the north side of I-80, there is a spring that another Chinese camp used, but the Maidu used it first, and it's called Butas. And the village there where the trailhead is, that was a Maidu village, main Maidu village with several hundred people living in it before.
Boy, mining sure knocked out a lot of Maidu villages.
It certainly did.
Boy.
Now this one is, we are at the base of Pukpuyen, which is Soapstone Hill.
That's what
And
that
that's-
picture was in the poster.
Right, exactly.
And so soapstone, could talk a little bit about what they use. Oh, well, never mind. Let's say.
This is the buckeye coming out early. The buckeye is one of the important trees. It is the first one to bloom in this before spring, and the first one to start losing its leaves. The Maidu use the nuts in a lot of different ways. We were discussing it yesterday, but I didn't get them all.
It's edible. You know.
Yeah, if you do it properly, just like the acorn, you have to go through and take care of it through leaching and things like that.
Now we have some samples of. Well, this is soapstone here. I'm trying to hold this up for the camera. I guess we could. You know, it's hard to see, but anyway. So this is soapstone. All these stones are from that area, and you'll see them if you go on this trek. Soapstone was used for making bowls and
Bowls and warming in the fire. It retains its heat, so they would cook and then put it onto the soapstone, and they could have whatever they had cooked hot for a long time. Grayson said that one of the soapstone pieces that he carved out, he heats up in the wintertime, and his wife uses it to keep herself warm or to warm the sheets
I wonder if
before
they
they
use
climb
it.
in.
It's pretty cool. I wonder if
Yeah.
they use those for when they do a sweat, which I've done periodically. They'll heat stones, and then that'll keep the sweat lodge hot.
Right.
So I wonder if
They may
soapstone
do that, yeah.
maybe the same thing. Now
Right.
this other stone here, this is obsidian. Can we see that? Yeah. This
Now
is
this-
obsidian.
This obsidian is from the other side of the Sierra down by Mammoth Lakes. And a lot of obsidian was traded
Oh, here.
across the, by the Paiute to the Washoe, and then across Donner Summit down into this area.
Uh-huh.
So they would have the obsidian for their arrowheads or drills or
I don't know if you can see this,
spears.
It's quite different. This obsidian here just looks like a gray stone with some black inside it. This is the actual arrowhead, which is semi-opaque, so you can see through part of this. And they would use these to chip off the edges. And oh, there we go. And Scott on our crew was telling us earlier that that doctors in the emergency room will use obsidian for the tips
Right.
of their for surgical devices.
Well, it retains its sharpness.
I'm
for
sure
a
they've
very
got a
long
great edge
time.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Amazing.
have to be really careful with that. So the soapstone is one of the major rocks that are in that area, and another reason that the Maidu had their village there, because they could collect the soapstone. One of the other rocks that they would have to collect as well as the pumice, which they use to do the grinding if they're making a bowl or some kind of an ornament, whatever, they'd use the pumice.
And the Native Americans would use everything in the area
Absolutely.
completely for anything that they needed. Amazing.
See, here we have a shot of the,
Oh, here we go.
you can see the slab. You could cook eggs on that.
Uh-huh.
And then the bowl that's up in the left-hand corner there, you can see the variety of pieces that Grayson has carved to date.
And so the round stones at the bottom of that picture, those are for like grinding or what?
Yeah, those would be for grinding.
And what about the one with the two grooves in it over in the left and the
I-
middle? And
I'm not sure what he he did tell me at one time what that was
Do
for.
they smooth the arrows or something with stones like that?
Oh, straightening that it.
Is that right?
Yeah, and sometimes when the shaft might get of some of the different plants, if it needed to be straightened, they would put it in there with that was wet, and then it would dry and be
Straighten
straight.
itself out.
Yeah.
The little square one with the hole in the middle up there, like sort of upper right side. I think they would put like powdered wood in there and then use that for starting fires. You'd spin a stick in there.
Right. They also used mountain mahogany as the strong, heavy base to start a fire, carrying it, and then the elderberry to start the fire by putting the point right into, again, some pine needles or something like that. And
Some flammable.
yeah, and one of the times that Grayson showed me, within seconds, he had a fire going.
So let's just say again, this hike will be on April 16th. It's a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. To contact you to find out more information, you can call Pinnell at 530-798-5955 or pinnellcurtis@gmail.com. Is it wise to make reservations for this? You'll probably fill up.
Yes, it would be, and we can only have about 25, not more than that. Otherwise, with people who are going on it, if there are too many, then they don't have an opportunity to ask their questions and really get a lot out of it. It is a moderate hike. We will be stopping and starting, so people don't have to worry about its being strenuous and working up a huge sweat. It is downhill, and there will be a return hike up unless somebody is not able to hike back up, and we'll have automobiles at the bottom on Iowa Hill Road.
Boy, it sounds like you thought of everything.
Yeah.
Now, during this trek, Grayson will be talking. I'm just reading off my notes here that Grayson will be discussing all the local plants and
Right.
all these kinds of artifacts and the substones and things right there. Does he bring some of these items with him? Do you know? Like finished bowls or like these things that we saw on the slide.
I don't think he'll bring the bowls, but he does bring with him some of the lighter, like the shafts for the arrows, or he does always bring with him his clapper, because he frequently will stop and do a song, like on our trip.
Traditional Maidu tunes.
Yes, he did one when we got down to Pukpuyen, and he sang to the mountain, requesting, good spirit.
It's amazing how far we've gotten from a connection to the land. It's wonderful that events like this take place. Thanks for putting this on, and that folks like Grayson are here with all that knowledge and information.
We're so fortunate.
There are only like 2 guys that even speak the Maidu language up here, and they're teaching Maidu classes right here at NCTU.
Well, Farrell, if he's feeling well, may come along on the hike, so that'll be added interest to the trekkers, because then they'll be able to get right away the Maidu name for a lot of the plants and animals that are in the area.
Like, so for instance, what was the name? All right, so Soapstone Hill. There's a Pukpuyen.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Pukpuyen, Soapstone Hill. So that's what one of those pictures was that we were looking at, and that's where you'll be. And what I really like about Grayson is he's conversational in all of this. So instead of just giving you a lecture, you can really discuss the things with him. It's like this is his life,
It is his life. And the thing that is so nice is that he's willing to share it with a lot of other people.
He is. He's mentored a lot of young folks that I've met since I moved up here, and they felt like that was possibly the most enriching thing of their childhood, was being able to hang out with this guy and learn these things about their area where we live. It's amazing.
It'll be carried with them for the rest of their lives. And they were really fortunate. Not too many people are fortunate enough to have someone who has as much knowledge as Grayson does, and knows how to get around in the woods without having to worry about being stranded or how to survive. Most people don't learn those skills.
No, certainly not.
Particularly when they're kids.
I had a note here to remind you to speak a little bit about the sugar pine
Oh,
as part of a survival thing. That's just a really cool
Yeah.
little story.
The sugar pine is one of those trees that the Maidu really love, and one of the stories that Grayson was talking about was that when the sugar pine cones, which are about like that,
huge, yeah.
they're huge, but when they're green, they haven't quite opened. Everyone likes to gather them, shake them, and bring them down and get a really hot fire going, and the pine cones are put around the edge, and they're cooked slowly, and they keep moving them in and turning them and moving them in, and it's like a marshmallow in a sense, only a great big old marshmallow. So they get them in, and we wouldn't know, but they, over years and years of practice, like with a marshmallow, exactly when it is. Then they take them and they start to peel off the pine edges, the leaf part, and eat them, and it's very, very sweet and yummy. Then when they've gotten to the core, they strip it down and fold it back and forth, and let it dry, so that they have it when they're going out into the woods, because it's like ramen, and you can dump it into boiling water, and you have a nice sweet soup that has full of nutrients and is very
Amazing.
yummy. It's their sugar candy.
Find it in the woods. So during the course of this trek, you'll find out more about that. You'll be identifying, and I noticed on your list you have like 3 or 4 pages of plants to be identified,
Right.
And such as the elderberry and the mountain mahogany that we spoke about earlier, and the Maidu uses. So you'll learn a little bit of something about how to survive yourself out in the woods. I know Grayson offers other hikes and more in-depth things for kids too, which is wonderful. I know there's a photo journal on Facebook, but it's way too much to repeat here. But probably if you email Pinnell, she'd send you the link. And there is a fee. We're not allowed to talk about prices here on NCTV, but part of that fee will be a donation to the Chayacam Maidu tribe, which they can certainly always use some funds.
Right, absolutely.
Very helpful. As I said, they're our local tribe. We should be supporting these folks. And things to bring along on the trip. Your lunch, water's always important. A camera, a sketch or notebook, and there'll be plenty to document.
Also a hat.
Oh yeah, and a hat, and maybe something extra. If you get in and out of the shade, you never know how cool or warm you're going to get.
Right.
And so again, it's a moderate trek, 4 miles round trip. Pretty much anybody could handle a moderate hike, from what I remember. I don't know.
I think so. Unless you have real health issues or your knees or hips are not working too well.
And it's not a wheelchair trail, I don't think.
No, it isn't. Definitely not a wheelchair.
Just so folks know, sorry.
Walking sticks, a lot of people walk, do hikes, and they've got their walking stick, and if they do need that, that's good.
And again, so if you can make it down the trail, you're fine. A car or a truck will be at the bottom to bring anybody up who can't make the hike back up.
And that's why they need to make a reservation to let me know that I need to have X number of cars at the bottom of the hill for those who can't make it back up.
All right, let's say again, to contact Penelope, it's Pennell Curtis, PENELCURTIS @gmail.com. The phone number 530-798-5955. So I think I said that slow enough. And since the trek is from 9 to 3, they should show up a little early, don't you think?
Yes. Yes, by 8:45.
And, and
But
really-
I will send out to
You'll send
those
that
people,
information.
yes, so those people who are interested and sign up, 3 days before, I'll send them out information, a map, where to, how to get there and what time to be there.
Okay, now, let's just mention, we have a couple of minutes left, and I know you're going to be doing possibly another trek in May for folks that may not be able to handle it or make it to this one, and something else in the fall.
Well,
You wanna
those
talk a little
will,
bit?
yeah, those won't be right here in Nevada or Placer County. It'll be over in the Sutter Buttes, which the Maidu had called Middle Mountain or Esto Yamani. We see them all the time when we drive down to Marysville, and they're etched, against the skyline.
Oh, sure.
I think we have some photos
Yeah,
of it.
we'll go out on the slides.
Yeah.
But-
And so what we will do is go to an area, I think we'll have the opportunity to go to an area that is the only state park where nobody can get to without a reservation. It's totally surrounded by private property.
Wow.
It's a beautiful area, and then there are other areas where the Maidu, the Wintu, a number of the tribes in the Sacramento Valley used to go. There are grinding rocks there. There are a number of places that will be of great interest. And of course, Grayson has a lot of historical knowledge about how important the Sutter Buttes were to everyone.
Well, thanks, Penelope. Once again, April 16th from 9 to 3. That'll be the hike Maidu to Mining at Burnt Flat. Thanks so much for coming on again.
Thanks again,
Wonderful.
Lou.
I want to thank our crew, Randy, Scott, Gail, Joe, Adele, and Terry, and Ivy, and everybody else here at NCTV. If you or somebody else might be a good guest for me here on Reality Check, you can contact me at loumeyer@nccn.net. I'll see if I can get you in one of our slots. Thanks again for watching Reality Check, and we hope to see you next week.
From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
To reduce the deficit, I believe we should go further. And that's why I'm calling on Congress to reform our individual tax code so that it is fair and simple.